We are going to go deeper into Njuba and its programming. Books play a big role in Njuba Nation. Early childhood plays a big role in Njuba Nation. Spelling bees, getting kids to do spelling bee are some things you do. We are going to go deep into this conversation and share with people how those three aspects come together to form the amazing transformational mission you have in the country. And then we talk about collaborations, who you collaborate with. We want to give a shout out to our board members who are all over the country, the Henry, the Gusta, the Sharon. We want to talk also to give shout out our fiscal sponsor in the United States, our Utopia Foundation, Paul Sutherland, who has written many books on children and lived in Uganda and adopted a son from Uganda and Zambia in addition to his biological children. So we'll go deeper. But for you, our CEO and our fearless leader, talk about how these three pillars of spelling bee, early childhood, and books. You distribute books all the time to different places of the world. And me as an author who write children books, I am so happy when I see this happening.
So all the things we do at Njuba has been a journey of learning and a journey of trying to solve the problem that comes about. Like I was sharing earlier, we started with spelling bees as a way of getting to schools and providing a platform to help children find learning as a fun thing. When you have a situation where many children are dropping out of school and they're not enjoying the whole activity of going to school, you ask yourself, what then can we do that can catalyze learning and make and tap into the intrinsic motivation of children to become lifelong learners? And so we say the spelling bee in that kind of angle, and it was the first thing we did. 2013, we have our first spelling bee with 10 schools, and those 10 schools then come back and say, are we going to have another one next year? And so 2014, we get on to have another spelling bee with our 20 schools. And at that point, we realized that this is important and is creating an impact on children's lives, and we need to scale it across the country, but we didn't have the capacity to actually scale it across the country. So we harnessed the power of partnerships. And at that point, we started to work with US Peace Corps and be able to work with the volunteers in education that they have across the country. And we're able to scale the spelling bee from 10, 20 schools to 1,500 schools by 2019, impacting about 1.5 million kids around the country. And through that journey, we're able to actually go around the country and visit schools and engage with teachers and parents and children, and also see the plight of learning.
Yes.
The real picture of what learning looks like outside the Kampala bubble, outside the town and city bubble, where everyone seems to be going to school, and see whether learning is actually happening in these places. And we're able to learn so much and to see the gaps in the education system and to see where we can be able to fit in. And as we continue on that journey, we realized that many of our children wanted to learn. They were eager when they were coming to school. However, there were challenges with our teachers who did not believe in the children they were teaching, who were getting in this teaching profession as a last resort. And so we started to think, how then do we support the teachers and engage them to become better teachers and to want to be effective, to believe in their children, to say yes to the dreams of their children. And we started a teacher training program to empower the teachers and support them on that journey. And as that started to come together, then they started to ask us for. So building on spelling bee and the work we had done with schools and with children and with teachers, they were asking for books, because now the spelling bee was sparking their curiosity to read and And many of these children were asking for books, and the books that were available in most of the schools were gray. That's how I call them. Black and white, not attractive to children. Many children would open the book and close it right back. And so we started to think, how do we provide material that is local, that is relevant, that is also educative and has values, and enables these children to be able to have access to books that they can get to own, and also access at school so they can read. Our reading culture is poor, and I remember early on in life, I would be told that if you want to hide something from an African, put it in a book. Don't even write it, but just put it in a book.
Yes.
And so the whole idea that we don't read, we don't even open books, was something that we wanted to come against and be able to create opportunities for this. So one of the first things we did in this line was to start and propel something we call Dear Day, drop everything and read.
Yes.
And that has grown wings now. It has been taken on by the Ministry of Education. There is a national Dear Day every year in Uganda, and many organizations do it. They don't even know how it started or where it came from.
I
But
never knew it. I never knew how it started. And Nyaka's children do it every year.
exactly. So everyone now takes it on, and that is one of the things we are excited about, freeing ideas and getting them out there so that they can have a life of their own, and have many people be able to enjoy them and access to such ideas. So then, with Dear Day taking root, with the demand for books, we got into the publishing space, creating materials that children would love to read. And we've right now published over 10 copies, 10 titles of books that are available for children to read. And we've done that in partnership with other people, but also in addition to the books that we publish, we've also partnered with another organization that mobilizes gently used books that are appropriate for our children in our context, and they ship them over, and those books go into rural areas, into community libraries, into school libraries, giving opportunity to children that would never have access to even one book, have a library and be able to access books and read. And in effort to continue that, we conduct catalytic reading events where we go to places where there is need. We go to schools, we go to communities, we go to these community libraries that we support, and we do a reading event where we read with the children and get them excited about the books that we have brought. And then we gift each child a book to take home.
That's
because
right. Yes.
each child needs to own a book. That's very critical. Ownership of a book is a very big part to developing a reading culture. Now, as long as books are guarded,
ownership of a book is like a Ugandan man owning land.
exactly. In libraries, books are very guarded, and there are so many rules around them, and that sometimes pushes away young readers to get to enjoy a book. But when they go with a book at home, then it gets to encourage them to want to read for themselves, and that builds the curiosity to read more, and they will end up in the library and be able to read the books that are in the library and enlarge their ability to read. And so that is our second pillar that focuses on reading, and both spelling and reading reinforce our literacy work that we have been doing for some time now, supporting Ugandan children to be able to access books, to be able to learn to read, to be able to find learning as a fun activity, and to be able to propel them into life and give them a future that they want, an adventure that they desire and seek for. The third thing that we do as Injuva now is early childhood education. Our early childhood program, developed still out of seeking out why aren't we solving this problem the way we thought it should be solved. So like I mentioned earlier, 2012, we noticed that 71% of the children are dropping out of school.
Yes.
2015, we realized that that number has dropped down to 60%. And so our work and the work of many others in 7 years contributed to an 11% reduction in dropout rate. But for Njuba, that dropout rate, that reduction, that percentage reduction that our work and the work of many others contributed to was insignificant. It was small. We want this change to happen fast because we are losing entire generations.
Exactly.
1 million children are dropping out of school every year, and that cannot continue to happen. And so we decided to investigate what exactly is going on. Why is this number not reducing as fast as we thought it should reduce? And so during COVID, we used the time meaningfully to investigate the dropout rate, investigate our programs, and rethink how best we could be able to play and be able to intervene in a post-COVID world. One of the things that we found out that was pretty shocking is that only 10% of Ugandan children have access to early childhood education. That puts 90%, who are mostly rural, have no access to early childhood education. Now, even those 10% who have access to early childhood education, it is not quality.
It's not quality education, yes.
In rural areas, especially, you have community volunteers who have no background in early childhood education. They have a passion, but they have no training, they have no background, they have no knowledge, they have no resources, they have no skills. And they set up these centers that receive no government funding, but also receive and have no access to even basic things like toilets or soap or running water that could help house children in that kind of environment.
Yeah. The environment is not conducive for a child to be in.
Exactly. So the impact of access, of lack of access or limited access to early childhood education is having a big impact on our education system. Education starts early. Sometimes most of the interventions start in grade 3, like our spelling bee program was starting in grade 3. USAID programs that we have interacted with were starting in grade 4 and moving upwards and forgetting the root. And that's where the challenges are. Because of limited access to early childhood education, 30% of our children drop out of school in grade 1. There is a requirement that every child who is 6 years and above, who is 6 years, should join grade 1. But remember, they didn't have access to any early childhood education.
They don't even know how to hold a pencil.
Exactly. They haven't developed motor skills. They haven't developed any print knowledge. They have not been, they don't have any exposure to any printed material, newspapers or calendars or anything. They have no exposure to any form of numeracy whatsoever. So they show up in big numbers in grade 1 and end up in a class where there are 300 kids, 400 kids in a small class room.
Or under the tree in Karamoja. Oh,
exactly.
Yes.
So either under the tree where the weather is going to affect when the sun shifts, it becomes too hot for them, or in the classroom and they're sitting on the floor and they have a teacher who is teaching them. And this teacher probably also has a baby. I'll tell you a story. So I go to this school in Pakwach district in West Nile.
Yes.
And show up and visit their grade 1 class. And there are about 400 kids in that room. And there's no, yes. And there's no room for the teacher to even stand and pass on any information.
Wow.
The grade 1 teacher had a baby of her own. who was about a year and a half. And so she would come to school with her baby. And for her to teach in this classroom, she would stand in the doorway of the classroom and try to pass on whatever teaching she was doing. But
Shout.
trust me, there was no learning happening.
No, that is just
So when
ticking
I
the
showed
box that she showed up.
Exactly. I found a teacher standing in the door and I
Wow.
told her, I want to interact with your children. So she moved away and I peeped inside the classroom and there was a foul smell,
Of course.
a combination of sweat and everything. The kids were all packed together and crammed together, just next to each other.
Yes.
And I realized that there was nothing I was going to be able to do in that room. So I told all the kids, come out, and we had some fun activities out. We gave them some books, we sang some songs, and leaving that place, I was challenged and started to think, what can we do about this number of kids? But
Yes.
with 400 kids, what is happening is that 30% of those kids do not end up coming back to school for grade 2.
Yeah.
Because
Pause
learning is not
a little bit, Aaron, because this information is being passed on to the world. We are in 2023. Many people
2024.
2024 now. Oh, 2024. 2024. And many people, when they hear our appeals to empower children to stay in school, their first reaction is, but there is UPE, Universal Primary Education, and the Ministry of Health. Why is not UPE providing this? And I try to explain to them, you have 150. Usually I use the number 150 with one teacher who is walking 5 to 7 miles to get there. By the time they get there, the teacher is tired. The teacher is not qualified. Most of the time they dropped out of P7. And now you are saying 400 students you saw with your eyes in one room with a teacher who is carrying a baby, can't even stand. How that cannot be learning. So you just re-emphasized, I think you froze a little bit. You just re-emphasized the point I and many people who are in the education sector trying to make to the world. I think
Sorry, I
your
lost you.
electricity. It's
My
okay.
electricity just
I saw. We get you darker now. We get the darker version. We can even claim we used AI to change your picture to be darker now. Since you are talking about Papatch. Yes. So please continue. It's okay. We can still see you. Like I see the lights are not there. Another problem we face in internet connectivity, but also power and stability in power supply.
Yes. So when you have these numbers and learning is not happening, and this child has been used to having fun and running around for 6 years, they show up at school and there is nothing exciting, absolutely nothing exciting for them in the classroom, nothing attractive, nothing to keep them going back to school. And I have met parents, several parents asking me, what can we do? My child doesn't want to wake up to school. What can I do to enable them to go to school? And that's where the problem is. There's nothing exciting at school. The kids have not been into any rhythm of learning, and so they drop out of school. And consequently, those who stay are unable to learn to read and comprehend. Uganda is ranked learning poor, which means that a significant number, and for Uganda's case, 90% of children who are aged below 10 cannot read a simple sentence and understand what it means.
Wow.
And so we have a dropout rate of 30% in grade 1. We have learning poverty, inability to read and comprehend by age 10. And that got me to understand that the 60% dropout rate, half of it was happening in grade 1.
At the lowest level.
At the lowest level. And one of the best interventions to support and ease out that is to go into early childhood education.
Early childhood education. Wow.
So our early childhood program right now focuses on providing a curriculum, training teachers, and providing a form of assessment that helps children to be able to learn in a systematic manner. And we're trying to scale that across the country and help as many children to be able, one, to access quality pre-primary education, because that is critical for them to get, one, the rhythm of learning, but also to get to understand and learn basic numeracy and literacy skills, so that by the time they go into they go into grade 1 and primary school, they have this basic knowledge, and that helps them to be able to go through school. If they have basic numeracy and basic literacy, it means that they are going to be able to learn to read, and they will be able to read, to really understand well, which will reduce the learning poverty numbers, it will reduce the dropout numbers, and it will propel these children, even as they get to experience our literacy programs in primary school, propel them to enjoy the access to education that will help them to transform their lives.
Wow. Thank you. Those 3 pillars are all critical, and I wish the Ministry of Education would adopt them. Oh, now lighting has even gone worse. I wish Ministry of Education would adopt all 3 and spread them in every district. So for a person who is sitting right now in Sebei and is listening to you and I talk about this issue, how do you differentiate between early childhood intervention with the nursery schools we have around the country? You have all these little babies running around in one preschool, middle school, top class, and then going P1.
So the biggest differentiator really is that the nursery schools that are opening up in different parts of the country are based on passion. So a desire to have some form of early childhood intervention without any understanding or science behind it. And having interacted with teachers who are going through nursery teaching schools, they come out zero understanding of the science.
Yeah.
Zero understanding.
There is also a motivator in money. Some people are starting them as businesses because they realize parents will pay a price to get the children out of the home, either to babysit or because they want the best for their children, and people have really gone in to just extort parents and take money. Yes.
Yeah. So most of them actually start as a business. Yeah. To get money, and the proprietor has no educational background, is interested in making money, so they hire the next person who says, I love children. Yes. And this person comes and spends time singing and dancing with the children and maybe having them learn to count. I will tell you my own experience. So during COVID, my children were becoming of age, and I thought I should get a teacher to try to spend some time with them and teach them the basics.
Homeschooling.
Yeah. So I got this teacher, and on day 1, without even trying to understand the child, she started by saying, okay, today we are going to learn about numbers. So say 1, the child repeated 1. 1, child repeated 1. Then said, jump 1. Child jumped 1. And I stopped her and I said, wait. What you're doing, maybe that's how you've been taught, but it's going to enable this child to just remember without understanding anything. And then I asked her, do you have a plan? What are you going to do this week? What are you going to do next week? What's the plan for this month? And she absolutely had nothing. She showed up and said, we are going to teach. We are going to learn.
We're going to jump, learn 1 until 10, sing a few songs. So yeah.
That is happening quite a lot in our schools. They have no resources, they have no knowledge, and they have no understanding of what early childhood development or childhood education is. And where Njuba comes in is to basically support these that are established, that are already running, and see how we can work with their teachers and train the teachers in the right manner of teaching, and in making this teaching child-centered, and having them to understand that these children are people in their own right. And they are curious and they are eager to learn, and they can learn. You as a teacher, your job is to facilitate the learning and not try to force it on them, and help them to learn in the best way possible, but also give them a guide, a curriculum that we have been testing and we have refined for the last 2 years, which basically guides them on what to teach every day, and how to help the student learn every day, so that at the end of 1 month, you can see a difference that actually this child has been learning.
Yes.
But to prove that, we also have assessment tools. And in assessment tools, we basically start with a baseline survey to understand where the children are at, and see if the intervention will have a difference. And then we do a midline survey. So along the way in the year, we do a midline survey to basically show whether learning has happened and goals have been achieved. And then we workshop with the teachers and be able to show them that these were the goals in the beginning for these children, and this is where they are. These are the weak points, these are the strong points, this is where we need to emphasize. And so that helps the teacher to refocus their teaching and be able to teach in a much better way, knowing that they are teaching this child to be able to be holistic in all this learning. And then at the end of the year, we do an endline survey to show whether learning from the beginning to the middle to the end has happened. And we've done one of such surveys. And the survey we use, the assessment we use, is an international assessment tool that has been used across the world in several countries, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas. And at our laboratory school, we did this assessment using just the methods I've taken you through. We've trained our teachers, we've developed a curriculum, we did them in a guide, and we did an assessment at the end of last year and found that our children outperformed every child in the world in all areas. Yes. They outperformed them in fine motor skills. They outperformed them in emergent literacy and emergent numeracy. They outperformed them in social emotional skills and executive function skills. So that is the proof that what we are building is working. And now we're spreading it out to rural areas, to schools that need it most, in supporting the teachers there, the educators there, to be able to teach the children and give them an opportunity to become the best they can be, and prepare them for primary education and a life of learning.
So the best early childhood intervention in the world resides in the outskirts of Kampala at an organization called Njuba, the sun, spreading the sunshine. That is, congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. So happy to be part of this team, and so glad we get to share this information. And this also ties into how teachers are trained. I know the conversation can go on and on and on forever. For the purposes of time, I know you have to go. It is electricity running out. Please just highlight one success story. We talked about the entire program. We talked about your travels to Pakwach. When you sit back and look at these many years of service and these many years of innovation and intervention, what we are going to talk about a success story, and then you are going to talk about what we term as failure. Sometimes we as leaders, people read about the awards we've won, the success stories we've had, but they don't get to hear the struggles that also come with it. So whenever I get this opportunity, I want to dig into the success story. We are all happy about the successes. Also, we don't have to be a failure. It can be a struggle that has happened within this journey that we want people to learn from. Start with whichever you want.
Success stories, there are so many. But I will share this teacher that has been participating in our programs for quite a while. When we found him in our initial teacher training program back in the day, he was a usual teacher. He had gone to teacher training college, gotten his grade 3 qualification, and was teaching in school, classroom teacher. And we show up and we share this information in our training, and opened his eyes and made him to want to dig deeper. So he started digging deeper and became one of the best teachers in that school. We saw the difference it was making in his life, and actually carried him to go and train as a teacher as well. But significantly for him, he started to interact with his children at the level of, I am not superior, I am just your facilitator to learn.
Yes.
And that enabled his children to continue to succeed and excel in life. His school noticed the skills he had gained, and they promoted him and made him a vice principal in the school.
Yes.
And other schools, of course, tried to poach him, but he stayed in this school for this time. And that has enabled him to basically continue to offer this service and be able to change the lives of so many children in there, just because he attended this one training that transformed his life and made him see the world very differently. But we've seen this, of course, with children, and one of the alumni of our program works with us now as our team. So that is testimony that we've come full circle.
Full circle. Wow. His name is
Tim of law at Makerere University, and is volunteering with us. And that means that we had some sort of positive impact on his life that makes him want to come back and also give back to others.
Wonderful.
In terms of challenge, this journey is challenging.
Tell me about it.
Lonely, but I will share that. So as a founder and a CEO running an organization, one, it is lonely sometimes. Sometimes you just feel like you're alone and nobody understands the challenges you're going through. Nobody understands what's going on. One of the things that keeps me awake and an ongoing challenge really is many years that we start with zero money in the bank. And I have a team of 20 people whose families and lives depend on the organization, and they need a salary at the end of the month. We have beneficiaries who are expecting programs to reach to them and have them experience this opportunity to have life change in their own lives. And sometimes that causes a certain amount of stress, kind of just going through it and knowing that I have to do whatever it takes to make sure we keep going.
That's right.
And we keep moving forward. And that takes a toll on my personal life.
You're the leader, yes.
But yeah, I've gone through several laws when we just feel like maybe you should just give up and close and live a normal life, go and find a job and be like everyone else. But when I think about the kind of difference and the kind of impact that we are creating, it keeps me going and keeps me wanting to make a difference. But it is real.
You're absolutely right. People read the title CEO and founder, and they see you traveling to New York, going to Dubai to conferences, and I think that's a very luxurious life. It is a lonely place. How higher you go, the lonelier it becomes, and sometimes also sabotaged in so many different ways. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking on the mantle, leading this organization to where it is. I appreciate your innovations and initiatives. Again, shout out to all our board members, all you staff members who work every day at Njuba under the leadership, all side by side with our leader. We appreciate you and thank you. We will put links of awards you've won, the African Visionary, the different funders that are also here who also follow this channel. But as we conclude, now I would like you to go back to when you were 18 years of age. If you were to give yourself advice at that age, what advice would you have given yourself?
I'm not sure. At 18, I was climbing mountains and having fun, but I was doing community development as well at that stage.
Yes.
So I did not know where this was going to take me. But if I'm to give myself advice at 18, I would say 18-year-old me, keep going. Keep looking for what you love.
Yes.
And do it. That is where fulfillment lies.
There we go.
Don't be distracted by so many things in the world that take different shapes. Seek what you love and do it with all your heart.
That's right. I think our Nike company would hire you if you just said, just do it. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Is there something I didn't ask you that you would like to share in the last 2-3 minutes?
Well, so I think you've asked everything, but maybe I just give a shout out to the whole support system. My board, thank you for supporting and believing in me and saying yes to the numerous ideas that I keep coming up with. And you say yes and you believe and you make it happen. I'd like to shout out to my wife and my family for keeping me going and for supporting me, because without that structure, it will probably be a different story. Will not be where we are. My parents who sacrificed their everything and taught me everything that I know and brought me to where I am at this stage. Let's thank them, our donors, our partners, implementing partners that we work with. Thank you for believing in us and working with us, working alongside us, whether through programming or financial support, and enabling this vision, this idea to take root and to keep going. Because without you all, this would be a very different story, would have died at the onset.
That's right. Thank you. You heard the man, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe, share, reshare. This information is vital and we don't get to it so easily. So we will continue to bring you ordinary people doing extraordinary things in this 2024. Let us know other ideas you have. We thank you. We appreciate you. We all know the best is yet to come. So as the man said himself, let's just do it.